One of the most intense single-make series in the world heads to Indianapolis for the second of two races. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Series, race 2 from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And what a beautiful day. There is some weather off to the west and south, and that could come into play. Brian Hill, Ryan Marine with you. It has been absolutely fantastic. But before we get to race number 2, Ryan, we should take a look at race number 1 and how that turned out. And there was plenty of action, always is here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. When you drop the green and head down that long front straightaway, what you end up with is a very tight turn 1, and anything can happen. Danny Vermael on the pole in the black and blue number 1. Already action behind as cars spread out. Then you're going to get to the heavy braking zone in turn 1. You see the green and black, number 29, with problems. That was a mechanical issue, but hold on, pull the belts down tight. Boom, there comes the first contact, and there's a spin in turn 1. The argy-bargy continues just around the corner in turn 2. That was Graham Doyle in the 10 that was involved. The 66 of Chris Tasca goes around in turn 2. And here's another look at how it all goes down. Just a second look back up. You can see the problem for the 10. And then Chris Tasca is going to spin right in front of us as they come around the corner in his 66. And we started off literally with a bang here at Indy.
Plenty of excitement throughout the course of the race. Cars scrambling left and right, more spins, more contact. 3 cars involved in that, including, most notably for the 46, little fire out the back, just trying to get that car restarted. It ultimately did. Big moment in the AM class right here. Little contact and then some more, much bigger contact between AM class front runners. That was Lindsey Brewer into David Staub. Lindsey goes for a spin. Big moment here as well with Slade Stewart and Andy Lee's pink Lamborghini making some contact with Sam Shee and Mathieu Boucher's Lamborghini. Both would continue.
Then Steven Sabaro into the 66 of Chris Tasca, just kind of gets into the back of him. And then this is a big, big problem for the 67 Conrad guys down in turn 1. That moves him from a podium position and perhaps the championship lead, but nothing held back the number 1, Danny Vermael. He takes the victory there along with his teammate. And I'll tell you what, for Vermael and Hampus Eriksson behind the wheel of the number 1 at the checkered flag, big day for them. Pole positions for both races here, and already a victory in race number 1. They take back over the points lead as well, Ryan, and that is going to be huge.
Yeah, massive result for them. They get the qualifying points with the poles. They get maximum points with the win yesterday, starting up front again here in race number 2. And for the Eriksson family, this is a special place. Hampus's brother Marcus is an Indy 500 winner, and he was here to celebrate with his brother in victory lane on the Yard of Bricks. Really special moment yesterday.
Special moment indeed. Anytime you can win at Indianapolis and you get to kiss the bricks, it is a great day. Talk about this racetrack, though, Ryan. It looks pretty simple and straightforward because it doesn't seem to have a lot of elevation to it, but there is some banking and there's high speed, low speed, you name it, it's here.
Technical final sector as well. It's at the end of Holman Boulevard. Dangerous turn 1, as we saw in those highlights going back to race 1 yesterday. Great passing opportunities, though, both in turns 1 and 7. Turn 12 coming off of the South Shore chute down into the infield once again leads to that crucial turn 13-14 complex. A lot of lap time is generated there because if you get a good run out, you take it all the way down the 5/8 of a mile front straightaway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway into turn number 1.
Yeah, what is it, 3,000 feet down the front straightaway? I think something like that. So, yeah, you get a chance to get that 620 horsepower that is in the V10 engine of the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 up and running. And that's the thing, too, that I find interesting here. There has to be a little bit of sympathy and empathy for these hand-cooked tires because they are put under extreme loads, not just the cornering in some of the higher speed sections of the racetrack, but the braking loads here are very substantial. Turn 7, where you see the Lamborghini Urus pace car bringing the field right now, that is heavy braking, and obviously there in turn 1, both long straightaways with very low speed corners at the end of them. But I think the other unique thing about this racetrack, come off of these low-speed corners, 1 and 7, and then you enter a combination of corners, right, left, and it's almost like a giant slalom ski racer. If you miss the first gate, you're going to be in trouble because it really puts you off your rhythm. And this is one of those areas that I was talking about. You can see turn 7 up at the top, and then 8, 9, and 10. You mess up one, if you don't get it taken care of very, very quickly, you're going to pay the price through the next 3 or 4 corners.
The slalom analogy is perfect. If you're late into the first sequence of that sequence, you're going to be late the rest of the way through, and it costs you lap time in a big way. It's all about rhythm there, and yeah, those that can master that, keep it straight through that section, they're going to be quick over a course of a lap at Indy.
4 different classes in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Series, really Lamborghini Super Trofeo anywhere in the world. The Pro class, the Pro-Am class, Am and LB Cup. LB Cup being the least experienced drivers in the field. Here we go. Front row lined up, the number 1, Danny Vermael, Hampus Eriksson behind the wheel at the start today. And then Gerasi and Colin Queen outside the front row in their number 4 from ANSA Motorsports. Green flag waves racing at Indy. You have to stay in column formation until you cross the line. They did. Turn 1. Hold on, Ryan.
Oh, it was a bunch-up point yesterday, caused a lot of chaos. So far, so good. Half the field through turn 1 cleanly the first time. Most importantly, Will Bamber and that car cleanly through. They had the issue at the start yesterday. It's his teammate Elias De La Torre who takes the start here today. They don't have the same issue, an overheating issue that caused them to go into limp mode and cost them a ton of positions and ultimately the championship lead.
Yeah, you think about it, we were talking to Will and he said, and Rocky Bulldog had to kind of bail there in turn 5 and 6 and take the shortcut. We'll see what the officials say about that. And then somebody outside of track limits at the top, but may have gotten forced out there. The first lap can be a little bit hectic, and already this is intense. 3 wide coming through turn 7 and 8.
On a big slide in the back, I think that could have been Conrad Geis. Did a good job to corral it and carries on in a blue car right there in the middle of the pack. But yeah, really good save. It does. It condenses so quickly. A couple of those spots down to turn 1, down to turn 7. You can be 3, 4 wide turning in, but you can't be side by side more than maybe 2 abreast at apex. And everyone's somehow able to sort it out this time and have a clean opening lap.
And that's just it. You've got to get it settled down so that you can go racing. Mandatory pit stop in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. 50-minute race and a pit stop somewhere in that midway point. There's a 10-minute window in there where you can get that pit stop done. Also a 1-driver and a 2-driver format available in a couple of the classes. Pit stop times will be different for those 2 classes. 112 seconds on pit lane for the 2-driver format and 115 seconds, so 3 additional seconds on the lane for the single driver format. The officials look at that and just go, hey, single driver format, they have an advantage. They know the racetrack, they know the race car. Consequently, there'll be a little bit of a penalty to try to even that out.
Got a glimpse a moment ago of the battle for second place in the Am class. Jim Hepworth, they had a day kind of undone by penalty yesterday. Coming under pressure here, Matteo Cederman was putting some pressure on. That's the 10. Glenn McGee there making a nice move, moving his way forward.
McGee started further back than qualifying would have put him because of a penalty in yesterday's race. He was given a 10 grid position penalty, so he started a little bit further back for contact on the racetrack. So that is why he is in the back and charging forward.
Not waiting around, is he? He's had a great season. Yesterday was really an anomaly. Oh, big dive up the inside there. That's Cederman, who won yesterday. Big first win for him in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He was elated to get it done and to do it here at the historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And he just put a pass on Jim Hepworth. Oh, spin further back in the pack.
Oh, and this is going to be big because cars coming out of the final corner are kind of blinded there, and we've got a car on fire and a lot of damage and bits and pieces and parts on the racetrack.
Well, this is an easy full course yellow. Immediately, the starter goes for the yellow rag and hangs it out of the starter stand. big incident here coming up onto the front straightaway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it happened in front of a pack. So in a lot of respects, lucky it wasn't anything more, but this is the look at that car on fire, needing to get that thing stopped and get the driver out of it as soon as possible.
Well, that's just it. I don't think the driver understands that there is the problem that they have, trying to get a little bit further, or maybe the crew saying, hey, get to the nearest fire marshal that you can find, because for Dean Newells right now, this is going to go up big time. As soon as you stop, the flames get even bigger. Newells trying to get the belts off, trying to get unhooked from the radio, pull the fire bottle if you can, but most importantly, get out of that burning car.
And here's the safety team.
He's hung up a little bit.
Yep. They're going to get there as quickly as they can. He is out of the car, it looks like, and safety team is there with the fire extinguisher trying to put that fire out. I wonder also if maybe he didn't have brakes. Brake lines possibly affected by this fire.
Yeah.
That could have been why it took him so long to get to his stop. But most importantly, to see the thumbs up, boy, that was a scary, scary moment, and happy to see Dean with the thumbs up for the safety crew.
I think you're exactly right. I think that impact and the damage to the left rear probably removed and broke the brake line back there in the back, and by doing so, he would have lost the brake fluid, the pressure, and the ability then to stop that.
Wow. Well,
AMR safety or AMR track services team on the spot immediately. They always are. What I tell you, yeah, look at the officials looking, making sure that he's okay. Joe Richard, the track physician, going to make sure that everything is okay. Let's see what happens here. In the grass, contact, that's the 67 of Geis. He gets wide and people start to check up, slide up high, make contact with the wall. Look at this. So Geis spins, boom. And for Newells, he was checking up and the other car behind him couldn't find a clean way by, worked between himself and the wall, but Newells hadn't left quite enough room. Look at the parts. That is a drive shaft there on the racetrack out of someone's Lamborghini.
Wow, didn't look like huge contact, but it clearly was enough to rip the wheel off, do the drive shaft damage, and then ignite the fire at the back of that Lamborghini. And then Newells just had to limp it back around. And then look, everybody else has to scramble to avoid all of the debris. There's bits of the car, there's also that wheel that needed to be attended to, or needed to be avoided really, as the field came through. And again, the most important thing, we saw that thumbs up from Dean Newells. He's out of the car after a really, really frightening moment.
And the thing that's great about motorsport these days is the safety aspect of it. However, some of the creature comforts, the communication, which is required, by the way, you are required to have a working radio to your crew. Well, guess what? That plugs in. You are required to have a driver ID system. That plugs in. A lot of the drivers elect to use a cool suit. That plugs in. And every one of those plugs is a hazard that has to be undone for the driver to get out. And we saw Newells just hung up a little bit there as he was trying to get some of those devices unplugged, and that was what was so concerning for me. Saw the AMR Chase 3 truck there, DJ Menger behind the wheel of that, John Schneider, JP Matthews on board, and they are right there, and that is one of the things that is so special about this series, as you see the 46 involved in that, off to the side down at turn 1. That AMR track services team, they are right there, and they are there to protect the drivers. And a lot of times, they're willing to be out there in hazardous conditions. The 10, a problem as well. I don't know that I saw him caught up in that, but perhaps that is why Glenn McGee on the side of the road as well aboard the number 10.
Now, this could be a trip to the Speedway to forget for that pairing. We saw them yesterday have some struggles as well. One more look at this. Yeah, what do you make of it, Brian?
That's Geis in the 67, just gets up on the grass and goes wide. And then Newells is coming up there, and then you saw the car just behind, couldn't get by. There wasn't enough room between Newells and the wall. No fault of his own. It was just, that's the way it is. And then the contact right front to left rear is what removes the left rear wheel for Newells, and I think may have gotten into the fuel cell a little bit as well, because the fire starts almost immediately.
Yeah, that is clearly the case, that that the fuel was ignited there. You really don't see that much in a modern race car, and it goes to the safety built into the cars, all the safety gear the drivers are required to wear, and then you talk about getting everything unplugged for a rapid egress. That's something that's required of every driver to show they can do it in a prescribed amount of time, and they practice this so that hopefully it's muscle memory that takes over in situations like this, where you might you see the fire and panic a little bit, and hopefully that muscle memory, the practice, the time that you've spent in getting ready just in case of an issue like this kind of takes over. But you're right, there's so many elements that connect the driver to the car these days, and here's a look at it as Dean tries to get away. Ultimately does have everything unplugged at that point, but one of those hoses or wires, cables, whatever, was stuck for quite a while, and that had my heart in my throat for sure.
Yeah, you could see the radio cord coming off of his helmet. You could see the what we call cool suit hose that he was holding in his hand. That was, I believe, the last item that was attaching him to that car. And think about him. You've got to keep your wits about you. As much as it sounds like a cliche, you got to stay cool, calm, and collected while the car is engulfed in flames, because you've got to do the right things to get yourself out of harm's way.
Yeah, easier said than done, as you know, in moments like those. But everything from the safety equipment side did its job. He was able to get out of the car, give the thumbs up, and we'll go for additional checks, I'm sure, just to make sure he's all right. And now we can turn the focus to the race itself, the cleanup, how much time this leaves us with to get into this race, and all the other outgrowths of this incident here in the very early stages of the race.
Well, it's not just about removing the car, it's about now cleaning up the racetrack, because from where the impact happened, and you can see where the AMR Track Services team is walking, the oil dry that is down, soaking up fluid that is there, and there could be, I think, fuel, there could be oil as well. You don't know if it got into the transmission casing and perhaps put down some transmission fluid, but you can see the fluid that's down along the racetrack. They're going to have to put, obviously, oil dry down on that. Then they'll run the brushes across it to try to make sure that they get it worked into the pavement to get as much as that off as they can before we go back to racing. And think about it, that is one of the higher speed corners on the racetrack, coming back on to the speedway there just before turn one where the initial incident happened. And so you've got to make sure that you've got that cleaned up as much as possible so someone doesn't run afoul of that fluid that's down there at the exit of that very high-speed corner.
Yeah, exactly, and you have to be super careful with that. As you say, it's a high-speed, high-commitment part of the racetrack, and any residual liquid down on the racetrack can certainly cause a major problem when we go back to green. Also causing a problem, I think, is just going to be all this dust from the drying agent that's put down on top of the fuel. And look at what a cloud it kicks up as the cars come through. And I mean, it won't take too long for that to dissipate, but at least here and now, this can't be a pleasant experience for those behind the safety car to try and pick through. Their visibility very much encumbered by it, and it can't be pleasant to breathe in either.
No, not at all. And it's going to be unpleasant from a visibility standpoint, even as much as they clean it off. When the cars come down the front straightaway the first time at speed, the low pressure area underneath the car is going to pull that up off the racetrack, and it is going to be even worse than what you see there right now as far as that material hanging in the air a little bit.
Right. Yeah, so it'll take a few laps to get that cleared up, even once we get back to green flag racing. Looking down the running order while this cleanup is ongoing, and it should be noted that some of the track staff will attend to some of that, so it won't just be sitting there quite like it is right now once the race resumes. But we did have a change for the lead in the Pro-Am class. Jackson Lee, who got the win yesterday here on home soil, native Hoosier from just down the road in Avon, got the win yesterday with Trent Hinman, who's celebrating a birthday today, by the way, so happy birthday to Trent. But they lost the lead in class on that initial start. Tadas Karlinskas was able to get by and put the MLT Motorsports car to the front in the Pro-Am class. So that was a change there. And right before the yellow, we saw Cederman get around Hepworth. That was for second and third in the M class. And it should be noted that Nick Grote is having another really solid weekend in LB Cup, runs solidly in 14th overall, has the lead in his class, and there's a very real chance that he could have this title locked up in LB Cup, leaving this race here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, even with the 2 remaining rounds still to come at Misano in conjunction with the World Final later on this year.
Yeah, and how would that make you feel if you knew that you could walk out of here and then just go to Misano and have fun, right? And not worry about a championship weighing heavily on your shoulders.
Yeah, it has to be nice. You could almost turn it into a bit of a vacation, at least for the first part of the trip to Misano. But then after the first 2 days, which all of the regional championships conclude there at Misano, then the decks get totally reshuffled and the best pro class drivers and teams from around the world get thrown into one race. Same for Pro-Am, same for Am, and same from LB Cup. And the final 2 days of that World Final are a ton of fun because you get a chance to pit the best of the different continents against one another going for World Final honors. And it's a really special occasion for sure to go and attend a World Final and certainly to come away with a win up against the best in the world.
All right, crews continuing to work. Look at that line of oil dry down, and then they're going to have to clean up there at pit out as well, where the car came to a stop, and then the fire trucks arrived and put out the fire. So a lot of fluid down there now. How did it all start? Well, innocently enough, Conrad Geis, after having a bit of a struggle late yesterday, gets up on the grass coming on the front straightaway. He goes around. I don't think he ever touches the wall. And then everybody behind him has to dodge. The 70 gets the car slowed down. That's the orange car. But then the 46 of McAuliffe, the blue car, comes in, can't get slowed down in time. Somebody collects the tire. I couldn't see who it was. Somebody collected the tire and wheel that was over there on the right. But the scariest moment was for Dean Newells, who, as you pointed out, most likely lost his brakes in this deal once the rear suspension was removed from the car. And one of those things where the right front of, I couldn't tell you who that was. Without that suspension on the back of the 70, that brake line is removed and the brake fluid is going to come out. There's no pressurized system anymore, or no pressure in the system. When he applies the brakes, all the fluid's going to pump out. The car's not going to slow down. And so he had to ride it out until it coasted to the stop. Scary moments there. Good to see him climb out once he was completely unbuckled. But, you know, a bad weekend for Sebastian Carrazzo and Sean McAuliffe. Sebastian Carrazzo did anyway. They weren't together in the pairings. They were together in the car this weekend, but Carrazzo dropped a point in the championship yesterday. And bad day for Dean Newells. He had a 4th place finish in the points after yesterday's race, and that is going to change today. There is the car that made contact with that tire and wheel. It was the 47. So kind of lucky to dodge that. Brendan Godovic behind the wheel of the 47. And man, that was close.
Yeah, certainly was. And for Brandon, it's a welcome back to Super Trofeo competition. He's a 2-time champion, won the AM title in 2015, won the Pro-Am title in 2021, but hadn't raced in the championship in quite some time, several years. Joins Dominic Starkweather here this weekend, filling in for Brian Ortiz. Of course, this is the family business, PPM, Precision Performance Motorsports. The Godovic family runs this operation, and Brandon can step in and pilot one of these cars when needed, and does so with aplomb, but had nowhere to go that time to try and avoid the wheel. Quite frankly, I think he probably got away quite lightly. It looks like there is some damage, but it doesn't appear to be anything more than cosmetic at the front of the 47 car.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at our television shots, or even sitting in the grandstand or on the hill, you can look at this racetrack and think that it looks pretty wide. It's only 50 feet wide. And when you put a wall on either side, like down the front straight, it seems even more narrow. Conrad Geis really dodged the bullet there. When you think about what was going on, he comes on the front straightaway, spins, doesn't touch anything, and then it all breaks loose behind him. He had a bad luck moment yesterday as well. he and his teammate Jason Hart battling for the championship in their Pro-Am category. They came in just 1 point behind their nearest competitors into the weekend and looked like they had a great run going yesterday and just got caught up. Conrad did in turn 1 in the ladder going, and all of a sudden the podium finish was gone and they had to hold on for minimal points, and they've dropped back a little bit as from the leaders, I should say, not in positions. They're still in second place in the championship, but Darius Trinka and Tadas Karlinskas in Pro-Am have eked out a 5-point margin. That's still really, really slim, Ryan, but hey, any points you can get in Lamborghini, those are big. And so that, I know that hurt for Jason. I spoke to him a little bit this morning. He said, hey, you got to remember, Conrad just started doing this a couple of years ago. It's not like he's got a ton of experience, and we're coaching him on the radio, but he got caught out. And when you get caught out at a place like Indy, it can bite you.
Well, file that away as a lesson learned, and he'll learn from that, grow from that. You're right, though, really limited in experience. Only started racing last year, although both of his parents did some racing, and he's been around it since he was a kid, but never did it himself until a few track days, and then that morphed into a single make series a year ago, and now stepping into a big, powerful car and a very competitive championship like Lamborghini Super Trofeo. I'll say this, he had luck on his side in that one because he went on the spin, but I agree, I don't think he hit anything, and actually he's been able to continue on, and Jason Hart will have the second half of the race in that car. We know how quick he can be, so actually their chances of a decent result have not totally gone by the wayside, believe it or not.
Well, we talk about how sophisticated these cars are, and we mentioned at the very beginning when we were looking at race 1 highlights, problems for the number 29, Elias De La Torre and Will Bamber. They run second right now, but it was interesting in talking to Will this morning. He said, you know, we got stacked up on the 2 pace laps, and I just got too close to the car in front of me, couldn't get fresh air to the radiator. Engine temperature began to climb, and the safety systems, the ECU said, oh no, you're overheating, we're gonna go into limp mode. And as a driver, A, you don't know that's happening, and B, when he went to the throttle to accelerate on the start, the engine said, no, I don't wanna hurt myself. So it was rich on fuel and in limp mode, and you saw him have to pull to the side. There was actually contact from the car that was directly behind him at the start, but sometimes those safety features and that technology works for you, but not always on the racetrack, Ryan.
Yeah, no, that I think they learned from that one, and Will, for all of his experience, doesn't have a ton of seat time in one of these Super Trofeo cars, and got caught out, as you say, running in close proximity to the car in front of him on the formation laps. That temperature skyrocketed, limp mode kicked in, and he had to drop to the side and basically to the back of the pack, and it was quite a rally by the team, by the drivers, to get back up to 4th, where they ultimately finished. Yes, they lost some ground in the championship, lost the lead of the points in the points, but minimized the damage, stayed within striking distance with 3 races to go, and had a really good start here in this race. Elias De La Torre able to jump up to 2nd, and he's been sitting there behind Hampus Eriksson thinking, all right, that's the target, that's the car we need to beat. Not sure how much drive time Elias is going to get under green flag, but certainly when Will climbs in the second half of this race, once the pit stop takes place, then I think it'll be a really fun battle between those two that know every position, especially between the two of them, super critical in a championship battle that's been this close all year.
Well, and this is exactly what they did not want to see, De La Torre and Bamber, because the opportunity to get in front is going away as the clock continues to run. Then we'll have to do the mandatory pit stop window when we go back to green. Driver changes will take place, and then we're going to have minimal time to get this done. And remember, this is the final race for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America on North American soil. Still 2 rounds to go in Misano in Italy, at Misano in Italy, but this is the last chance to get it done in front of the home crowd here on U.S. soil. And hey, last opportunity to win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this year. So these drivers want to get back to green, and the safety team doing everything that they can to get that done, but they want to make sure that the competitors have a safe racetrack to do it on.
Yeah, you can understand the abundance of caution. You mentioned it, and you're spot on. That exit of turn 14, pretty high speed, high commitment area, and down into turn 1 definitely as well. That's terminal velocity is the highest at the end of the front straightaway. And so you need to make sure there's no fluid, especially anything that's oily that could stick on the tire for a little bit and cause an issue down the straightaway and then into the braking zone for turn 1. Need to make sure that's all cleared up. And I do think we're getting pretty close. They're done applying the Speedy Dry, and now it's just trying to use the track sweepers and various other pieces of equipment to make sure that that gets cleaned up as much as possible and we don't have a huge dust cloud pop up when the race restarts. Although that said, I think there is going to be at least a couple of laps where visibility could be hampered somewhat as the cars start to clear some of that Speedy Dry that's been put down on the track.
And I saw Clifford out there as well. Ryan,
yeah,
are you familiar with Clifford?
I am. Yeah, it's hard to miss Clifford. It's the red and clearly much older Chevy pickup truck. I think it's an S10 if memory serves, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. And it has, I believe, something like several 100,000 miles driving around exclusively, there it is, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's been part of the track crew for a really long time and something of a minor celebrity in these parts.
Clifford the big red dog and Clifford the big red truck. It has oil dry in it. It has a broom in it on the back, and it has a blower in it. The blower out the left side, you can see it blowing off some of that oil dry. And yes, Clifford has been around the block and always doing a good job here. I had forgotten about it until I saw it yesterday. I'm like, oh my gosh, Clifford is still here.
Clifford wouldn't have been around, though, when you made your Indy 500 appearance, correct?
No.
1994?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah. My riding mechanic did most of the cleaning up and stuff like that.
Well,
all right, we didn't have them then, but yeah, it was a long time ago. But hey, let's talk about championships real quick. We talk about the championship complexion changing in pro yesterday with this perfect weekend that the number 1 has going right now with the win yesterday and the struggles for Will Bamber and Elias De La Torre. De La Torre and Bamber slipped to second. Vermael and Ericsson go to the top. In Pro-Am, we talked about this a little bit. Trinka and Karlinskas hold on to the championship lead there, and they pull out 5 points on Conrad Geis and Jason Hart. But I tell you, the biggest mover, unfortunately, in the wrong direction in Pro-Am was Antoine Comeau and Nicky Hayes. They did not have a good day yesterday, and the biggest problem was 4th and 5th in the championship did. And for Comeau and Hayes, they dropped from 3rd to 5th in Pro-Am.
Yeah, that was super costly. Definitely a day to forget and need to find a way to bounce back here. But way down the order, down in 26th at the moment. So they've got some work to do, to say the least. But the good news is the cleanup is complete. The lights are off, and in fact, the safety car is pulled away. So in just a few moments, Hampus Ericsson will see the green flag as he leads the field once again.
And how aggressive will Elias De La Torre be in that yellow and black number 29, just behind the blue and black number 1, accelerating through the restart zone onto the front straightaway. And it'll be interesting to see what the officials say about the pace that Hampus Ericsson brought the field down. They want him to maintain the pace of the safety car. I don't believe he did. And here goes that oil dry as this field flashes through it. Begin to see the cloud come up, and that lack of grip that you're gonna have right there around turn 1. Everybody negotiate through it. Yes, indeed they do. Pit window is now open.
Had to delay that because of the full course yellow, so it shifted later into the race, but it is open now, so we'll start to see some activity. I expect we'll see a few cars come in at the first time of asking this time around, depending on their strategy with who starts which driver. Changing the lead in the Pro-Am class, Jackson Lee back around. Tadas Karlinskas going for back-to-back wins is the Indiana native.
That battle is the 7th and 8th positions on the racetrack as they run right now. There's a look at the number 2 of Jim Hepworth. They had problems yesterday, but recovered from them and trying to put in a good drive here. They've had really good runs lately in the AM category. They've been on the podium coming into the weekend, including a win at Road America, on the podium the last 4 races in a row, but had the problems yesterday at 65 around.
Also an issue for Clay Wilson. We saw that a moment ago. Ray Shahi in the 65 has his spin. Both, it appears, able to continue on with 21 and a half minutes to go. That's good. We keep it under green. And look, there is a long line of cars coming down the pit lane here as the pit window opens.
The leader is one of them. Erickson, I believe, on pit road. Yes, indeed he is. And now for De La Torre, he needs to put in qualifying laps and see if he can spread that gap just a little bit, make up some time, and then have a really good pit stop when they come in. What I'm interested to know is, have the officials shortened the pit window? Because normally it's about 10 minutes long, and today with this shortened race because of that big problem, I'm wondering if the pit window has been shortened a little bit.
Well, hopefully someone listening can fill us in on that. I don't know the
problem
answer.
Here.
Oh, wow.
Suspension damage, left rear for the 37. You can see donuts down the side. And so see if we can find out what happens to Wilson.
Oh.
Is he a part of this incident? That's the 65 going around, but did not see what happened to the 37, but there were significant damage to the left rear suspension when Clay Wilson drove by. I don't think we've got a shot of it, but I don't know if that was on his own. He made contact with the wall somewhere or not, but his day is going to be done. Meanwhile, pit stops continuing. The one has left their pit box and headed back down pit lane. Can they have a perfect weekend here? They had a perfect weekend at Road America, Ryan. 2 poles, 2 wins, and they're trying to duplicate it here, as are Danny Fromall and Hampus Erickson.
Yeah, scored maximum points across those 2 races with the poles, with the 2 race wins. They don't get any points for it, but just to add to the score, they also had the fastest race lap in both of those races in Road America, and they needed to. They needed a big weekend after having 2 straight events where they really struggled to get results, even if the pace was good. Started the season with those wins at Sebring. Looked like that was going to be the lineup to contend for a championship, but it hasn't come easy. However, they bounced back in a big way, trying to make it another clean sweep, but it's not done yet, and I think you're right. What that in-lap might have done for Elias De La Torre, if it was good enough, that could really help them gain some track position, but they're in the pits now.
Understand that Conrad Geiss is getting a penalty for incident responsibility showing up on my timing screen, and I don't know if that's for the problem on the front straightaway, but typically if you spin on your own, even if others get involved in it, you don't get a penalty for spinning. So I'll wonder if there was contact somewhere else that Conrad had that started that.
Yeah, that I would agree with. I've not heard of that spin on your own and then any residual damage causing a penalty before, but we don't know. Here's a spin for the 11. That was Karlinskis. Whoa, that used to be the leader in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, and that appears to be on his own. That is huge. That's going to be a problem. And just when you look at the championship and you go, Trinka and Karlinskis have it, because now Conrad Geiss is going to get that penalty, a stop and hold plus 60 seconds, we're being told. They almost throw it away. This is an opportunity for them to pull even further out when the nearest competitor in the championship has a problem, and they almost threw it away right there with that spin.
Wow, unbelievable. Still able to get back to the pits. That's the good news. That is a big penalty, though, for Geiss. This is a long pit lane. You lose 52 seconds or thereabouts just driving the pit lane alone, and then you add another 60 seconds to it, and we're doing minute 25 lap times here. So that's basically a lap lost, plus they need to make their pit stop. You can't serve the penalty and do a pit stop simultaneously to fulfill the regulations. So that really is costly for Jason Hart and Conrad Geiss.
Gianno Torino now aboard the number 8 on pit road, coming down to do their pit stop, sharing the number 8 this weekend with Nick Persing. Persing having a good season, 3rd in the championship right now, and closing a little bit this weekend as we finish the first race here at Indianapolis, and he brings Gianno Torino in, and when he does, he's back on the podium. So
right,
first time in the last 4 races for Persing to be back on the podium, and you got to thank Gianno Torino, I should say, for helping that. I'm not saying he's the reason, But a lot of times you bring a second driver in, you get a second look to help with setup and so on and so forth, and it just adds to the tools that you have in your toolbox to help you go faster.
Well, Torino's a reigning champion in this series, so you're really bringing in someone who can contribute in a big way, and we've seen that in his pace, and you have to believe under that tent, just adding that extra data set is a positive there as well. Coincidentally, Torino could have, I'm not sure we ever did see it unfold, but there was the potential that he could have been door-to-door with the guy he won the title with last year, Ernie Francis Jr. They're in different cars here this weekend, having shared the car last year, but ultimately, I don't know that we ever did get to see the two reigning champs battle it out here at IMS.
Onto the front straightaway flashes the 22 being shown in the overall lead right now. That is the 22 of Huffaker and Conright, and they are fourth in the championship, and they are moving forward. Scott Huffaker, Jaden Conright, they are closing down, only 2 points behind Nick Persing after yesterday's race. So they are on a run as of late as well. 4 podiums in a row, 2 second-place finishes, 2 third-place finishes, and they could have a say on the top 3 in the championship by the time we're done.
I think so. I mean, they haven't won yet this year, but they've done everything else just about. They finished on both other steps of the podium, and really, they've been on the podium a lot. Only failed to be on the podium 2 times all season. So, yeah, they've been remarkably consistent. Just haven't had that one day where it all goes right and they get the win. And right now, they're out in front, albeit during the pit stop shuffles. We'll see, though, could this be the day for a breakthrough?
And for Jaden, having opportunities here in Lamborghini, also in Michelin Pilot Challenge, the more you drive, the better you get. It's just reps, and it doesn't matter whether it's in the same equipment or not. The more you do it, the more the muscle memory is there, the more comfortable it feels. And I think we're seeing that in Jaden Conright, young driver who is the recipient of IMSA's Diverse Driver Development Program, and put that opportunity to good use.
Certainly has. He won that scholarship back in 2021 to apply to the 2022 season. Did a partial WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season that year in a Lamborghini. He's been part of the Lamborghini Junior Driver Program over the last couple of years. Named to it in January of 22, and that continued up to the GT3 Junior category in 2023. But yeah, one of those guys that maybe a bit unheralded, but when he gets plugged in to a race car, it always seems to go forward.
And it's got to be the right race car as well, right? I mean,
sure,
opportunities are all well and good, but you need opportunities in good race cars. Jaden is getting that, and he's having the performance. So the final couple of cars are in to make their stops. Conright's going to have to stop this time. They are running out of time. Pit window closing shortly. But if you're out there and you're turning good lap times, keep doing them, and we'll go for as long as we possibly can and see if we can be in a better position once everybody gets back on the racetrack. So the 22, the 44, the 14, all on pit road. That means, in theory, the race should resume just as we left it before the pit window opened. That would be with the number 1 leading the 29. Does Will Bamber have anything for Danny Formal?
It's a tough ask. Danny Formal is as experienced as they come in these Super Trofeo cars, and as quick as they come as well. He's having a good weekend across both this program and the WeatherTech Championship as well. He's been pretty quick this weekend, so keep an eye on him in the 6-hour race tomorrow. Problem here, this is the car that had the issue earlier, isn't it? Where that hit the wheel.
Yep, that's the 47.
Yeah, it's now Starkweather driving. It had been Brandon Godovic earlier, but luckily able to continue on.
Pit window now closed. Not a problem because everybody has pitted. What happens? Does he have help? Late move there. Yeah, he does. He's got 30. Yep. That is going to be a problem. And for Nikki Hayes, we talked about the fact that when you looked at the championship, they dropped 2 positions yesterday, and you wonder if there's not a little bit of desperation trying to get back up to the front and make up for the problems that they had yesterday. That is not going to help because race control all this weekend, and it really started late in the race at Road America for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Race control has changed their view of what can and cannot happen on the racetrack, and simply put, what I just saw happen cannot happen.
At this point, I think it's safe to say that they will not brook any significant car-to-car contact, and we've seen it throughout the course of the race weekend at VIR, which Lamborghini Super Trofeo was not a part of, but all the other IMSA series, certainly we saw that a lot of penalties handed out, and that's definitely been true here at Indianapolis, not just in Super Trofeo, but across the board. Yesterday's race, though, I think Brian sent a message, because we did see quite a bit of contact, and then consequently we saw quite a few drive-through penalties, and it has the message has been sent. Whether it's been received is another matter.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the penalties on the board right now. Car number 10 with a penalty for incident responsibility with the 37, a stop plus 30. That cannot be served because the 10 is not running anymore. And you may go, well, why would you do that? Well, actually, he's now being shown 8 laps down. Why would you hand a penalty to a car that's that far down or out of the race? Well, you know what? You assign them anyway, whether they can serve them or not. So we'll have to see. Glenn McGee, certainly a weekend that they would like to forget. He and Graham Doyle, like I said, they came in here with the championship lead. They still have it comfortably, but when you continue to have bad days, that comfortable lead that you have is going to go away. And in fact, David Staub, second in the championship after yesterday's race, only 14 points back, and he's running well right now in second position in AM. And if Glenn McGee and Graham Doyle keep dropping in the order, they're last in that group right now. This is not going to be a good points day for them, and that gap is going to close.
Yeah, no doubt. Staub's doing a great job for Precision Performance Motorsport. 15th overall, second in the class, and not under any significant pressure. He's pulling away from P3 at this stage, and the only one ahead of him is Matteo Cederman. What a weekend that Cederman is having. Brian had not won in Super Trofeo, and he might go back-to-back at arguably the most historic venue in global motorsports.
Yeah, if you're going to find your first 2 victories, this is a great place to do it, right? And that's 30. We saw that incident. Here it was again, and that penalty just handed down. That will be a stop plus 30. So they've ramped it up even more here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. It is not a stop and go or simply a drive-through. It is a stop plus 30 seconds for these incident responsibility calls.
Yeah, it is super punitive. Any penalty here is, just because of the length of this pit lane, and it's a short lap. So any penalty and you're going to lose the better part of a lap, no question about it. And then you add a stop to the equation, and it's that much more punitive. That is a big one. This car running 5th in class right now, actually up to 4th just a moment ago. Oh, and this was another move just a moment ago into the 44.
Wow. I would expect that one to be reviewed as well, and then don't be surprised if there's a penalty there. Also a penalty on the number 4 for a short pit stop time. That'll be a 1 second and change post-race penalty. If your infraction is less than a second or so, it is a multiplier, how much times how much short you were. And if it is more than that, then it's a drive-through. So not a big penalty there for the 4, but a penalty nonetheless.
Yeah, and at the moment, though, they run more than a second ahead of the next car in class, Scott Huffaker, so it wouldn't cost them a position. But should everybody get bunched up, most notably, if this race should end behind the safety car when everybody's together, all of a sudden a 1 second penalty goes from academic to very, very significant. So we'll have to remember that. Meantime, Bamber has dropped off of Formal to the tune of 5.3 seconds, and he's actually coming under pressure here from the 4 of Colin Queen, and hopefully he'll know what the score is here as these two battle it out for 2nd and 3rd.
I tell you what, Colin Queen is quite the story as well. As we close down on 7 minutes to go, he was born with a congenital heart defect, and as far as I know, he's the only active driver in professional motorsport who lives and races with CHD. So it's one of those deals where he has not let it deter him. He had 3 open heart surgeries and a lot of other medical procedures before he even turned 3 years old, and it did not hamper him. He was a standout in karts, raced in Europe in Formula Ford 1600, British Formula 3, British Formula 4. He was 2nd in the British Formula Ford Championship, and now he says this Lamborghini program has been really the next step in his career. He and Enzo Girassi, both part of the Lamborghini Junior squad, and just a great opportunity for him to continue to move on with his career. And when you look at a young man like that who sets problems behind you, you think about days that you have where you complain about, oh, this isn't right and this isn't right. Well, guess what? Colin Queen hasn't let little days like that slow him down, nor the big days in the hand that he was dealt at birth.
Yeah, it's been a really remarkable story. Came through as far as his racing goes. The Lucas Oil School of Racing won a scholarship there that promoted him into F1600 racing, and from there you kind of talked about it, going over to the UK. Actually got a big boost as well from the Team USA scholarship that Jeremy Shaw heads up to help identify promising young American talent and send them over to the UK to compete in the Formula Ford Festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy. And that's helped launch so many careers. I really thought this was a lineup that would contend for wins, and they've had some podiums this year, Queen and Gerasi, but we haven't seen them break through just yet. You look at the talent, you look at their experience level, and you kind of thought maybe they could be there at the front. And it's been a learning year, I think it's safe to say, for both. There have been new challenges for both of them and for the team, but that said, this is a really good showing for the two of them, fighting with one of the championship contenders here for second place. Well,
one thing's for sure, a Lamborghini Super Trofeo, or a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2, very different than an F3 or F4 car. So there's a learning curve that goes with that. I think for Gerasi, he knows this a little bit better, but for Colin Queen, there's a learning curve that has to go there. They'll find their way for sure. What they need to do is find their way by Earl Bamber. Queen needs to get by and then put more than a second between himself and Bamber, because he's going to have that time penalty at the end of the race. So getting by him is one thing. Then he needs to clear him and put some distance between himself and Will Bamber.
And time's running out to do that. Should clarify, Colin, he was a finalist for the Team USA scholarship. It wasn't one of the ones that was sent over, but even still, that's a list that if you can get on and be a finalist, you're doing something right, and it gets the attention of potential team owners. Meanwhile, watching here is the birthday boy, Trent Hedman, trying to take another victory. It would be his second on the weekend for himself and Jackson Lee. And right now, out in front comfortably in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, comfortably indeed, and I'm looking for Siderman to see when his last pit stop. I think he's only been in the pit lane. Well, no, he's okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number there. He's okay. Looking at the number 10, who I'm not sure that Glenn McGee has served the other penalty that he needs to serve. But think about Wayne Taylor Racing. We said this yesterday. The number 1 of Danny Formal behind the wheel right now, and the 69, Trent Hedman, behind the wheel of that car. Those two cars have been on rails all weekend long, leading their practice sessions on pole for both races, and now running up front. And this is going to be a huge weekend for the hometown team of Wayne Taylor Racing if it can stay this way.
Yeah, they're from Brownsburg, which is just a little bit west of where we're located here in Speedway on the outskirts of Indianapolis. And yeah, very much a home race for the Wayne Taylor Racing team. We saw that was really special for them. And of course, just winning at Indy is special. That was on full display with the win yesterday. Remarkably, for Danny Formal, it was his first win at IMS. I was surprised to hear that. But breakthrough for him in that regard. And again, this is the kind of result that they need here in the pro class to try and claw back. Well, they did claw back the championship lead yesterday, and now trying to extend it a little bit again to have some margin heading into the final 2 races of the year.
15 points for a victory, 12 for second, 10 for third. So if it were to finish the way we run right now, which Colin Queen would like to change, Will Bamber and his teammate will drop back a little bit further. He and Elias De La Torre will lose another 3 points to the duo of Formal and Erickson. It doesn't look like Will and Elias have an answer for the number 1 right now, but we still have 2 races to go as we head overseas for the final 2 rounds at Misano. So it's not over, but hey, the band is warming up, and you got to try to make sure that you score as many points as you possibly can. And sometimes you have those weekends when everything seems to go right, and right now, with 2 minutes to go, the weekend has seemed to be a perfect one for at least 2 of the Wayne Taylor Racing entrants this weekend.
Well, you think about the fact that the season finale is not even on the same continent as the rest of the season. That's a pretty massive variable to throw. Ooh, off and on for the 4 car. That's Colin Queen, who was challenging with Will Bamber just a few moments ago, but fortunately able to continue. But just to close on that thought, you know, this is a track in Misano that a lot of this field probably doesn't have extensive experience racing at. And, oh, this was the move. He was trying to get by Bamber. Oh, and a touch. Wow.
Yeah, they did touch. And, you know, it's the white flag is now out, but I was getting ready to say, it's one of those things where you've got 2 guys racing really, really hard through a section of the racetrack. There was that little touch. They both continued, but you got to think that the way the officials have been looking at this may have a disastrous effect on the 29.
Yeah, if the past precedent is indicative. It was tight, though. I mean, they were running really close together. It wasn't much of a touch. It's under review, though, and that review could have a massive, massive consequence.
Wow. You don't want it to come down to that at all. And as I said, that hard racing between 2 competitors that are willing to put it all on the line. And I'm sure Colin Queen going, well, hang on a second, he hit me. But I think at the same point in time, looking at the championships that he ran in British F3 and British F4, it is cutthroat for sure over there. Formula Ford 1600 as well. And moves like that, aggressive moves, are nothing new to him, and he was willing to put the car in there. We'll have to wait and see. We'll also have to wait and see if Danny Vermael can pilot his number 1 through just one more corner onto the front straightaway at Indianapolis. Danny Vermael, Hampus Eriksson, a perfect weekend at Indy. They sweep the weekend and win race number 2.
And for Trent Hidman and Jackson Lee, it's a perfect sweep as well. Trent Hidman wins on his birthday, and Jackson Lee takes another victory on home soil.
Wow, big celebrations for Wayne Taylor Racing. I'll tell you what, there's going to be a big celebration on the part of the 63 as well. Matteo Siederman, if he can make it around one more time and he could coast from here, I believe. He sees the checkered flag, and another victory for Siederman at Indianapolis.
Just waiting on the LB Cup race leader, and here he is, Nick Grote. Rocky T. Bolduc made a charge late in the race. He got within about 3.5 seconds, but Nick Grote looking to come around and take yet another win, and if he can do it unofficially, would have a 35-point lead and effectively clinch the championship with 2 rounds to go. How about this season that Nick Grote is having in LB Cup?
Oh, it has been a fantastic season, that is for sure. You think about it, 6 wins and 6 poles coming into today, so we'll make it 7 and 6. Good stuff. And for Rocky T. Bolduc, you said, hey, he gave it everything he could. Think about the weekend that Bolduc had at Road America. It was disastrous, but as his wife said, setback to comeback. And so he had his setbacks, and he definitely came back this weekend, just comes up a little bit short. Big time celebrations for Wayne Taylor Racing. They win in Pro and Pro-Am, and they had cars that they put on the racetrack this weekend that were simply unstoppable.
No other way to describe it. Picture perfect. And a 1-2 overall once again. So, yeah, really remarkable. And this is a team that's been a powerhouse in this championship for a long time. It comes as no surprise. The lineups are exceptional. The execution was flawless. They kept their heads when some others had some struggles doing so over the course of this weekend. And the end result is a wonderful weekend in the championship for Maul and Eriksson. And Hidman and Lee, they're not thinking points. They've not run together all season. Trent joined midway through the year, and Jackson's been in a couple different cars in a few different classes. So they're just out trophy hunting. That was exactly what they did here this weekend.
Well, and think about Jackson Lee. I think this is his 4th co-driver, but I think he's found one that he likes. Take a look at the unofficial results. And one of the things you're not going to see here, Ryan, is the number 29.
Whoa.
There was a penalty that was assigned. I'm being told it was for passing outside of track limits and not necessarily the contact that we saw, but it doesn't matter what it's for. It was a time penalty that has moved the 29 all the way to the back of the pro category, and that is huge. You see the win there for Trent Hinman and Jackson Lee, and then for Cederman as well. He makes it 2 for 2 here. That's the first page. Moving on, still don't even see Bamber there. That is huge. Nick Grote, the victory like we talked about in LB Cup being shown there in 18th. And where does the 29 appear? Elias De La Torre, Will Bamber being shown in 21st position, and that is last in the pro category.
Wow, that is a huge, huge detriment to their championship hopes. Yesterday was a great fight back despite the misfortune early to get to 4th, but today it all comes unglued. Effectively at the very end of the race, that penalty is one that they will be rueing for some time.
All right, we said it. This was the final race for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America here on North American soil for 2025. The final rounds will be in Misano, Italy. And Ryan, it's been great to work with you this year. Your thoughts on a season of Lamborghini Super Trofeo?
Man, it was a ton of fun from the very beginning. We've had so many swings in momentum over the course of the year. Outside of LB Cup, no one has a firm hold on the championship, and you know we'll be watching from afar as they head to Europe for the final couple of rounds at Misano.
Good stuff. Eventful for sure here from Indianapolis. Round 10 of the season done and dusted, literally, with the oil dry. There's a look at the AMR Track Services team. They have been with us all season long and have been a huge part of what makes IMSA so special, along with Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Great teams, great drivers, great action. We've seen it all along. Follow along on the internet and finish out the 2025 season. For Ryan Marine, I'm Brian Till. We'll see you next time.